Jimmy and Jay, the Usos, are back together. But where are they going with this? Let's have a little talk about it.
We are back in the tag team division.
So what's going on, guys? I'm your average Joe. This is your average Joe Wrestling, a little channel where we're going to be discussing WWE, doing some fantasy booking, having a little bit of fun with it. I also run a couple of other channels as well. So I have a Universe Mode series on WWE 2K games, and I also run a Let's Play channel. So the links to those will be in the description down below. So let's have a little recap. Jey Uso had a bit of a crash out after he lost to LA Knight in the last time is now tournament. And this led me to believe that they were going to go down an interesting route here. And I was quite surprised when the following week, I think everyone was a bit surprised to be honest, that Jimmy and Jay just randomly came back together as a tag team and decided, yeah, we're going to go after tag team gold. Of course, they did kind of tease it a little bit because backstage, after Jay had his crash out, he kind of said the singles championship or the world championship or something doesn't, like maybe Roman is right, like maybe it looks good on him, it doesn't look good on me, so something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing a little bit here. But yeah, so the Usos kind of reunited in a bit of a random way, if you ask me. And when they reunited, they came down to the ring. They basically put the other tag teams on notice, like, we're coming for the tag team gold, blah, blah, blah. And Jimmy did kind of explain, I guess, how they came to the decision to go back into the tag team division. It was still a bit wonky because Jay was just crashing out last week, and then all of a sudden now he seems fine. I don't think he is, but we'll get onto that in a minute. So Jimmy made some interesting comments where he almost pretty much listed all of Jay's recent failures.
We've been taking L after L. Jay losing his world championship, L. Jay losing John Cena's last match, L.
And I'm surprised that there and then he didn't get a super kick in the face because, bro, you were pushing some buttons. So yeah, Jimmy was saying things like Jay messed this up, Jay lost this, Jay lost that. And I think that was an interesting decision to make, to add that little trinket in there, because I feel like that might be adding a little bit of tension between the two, perhaps, or at least hinting at it. And then the following week on Monday Night Raw, I am recording this before the 22nd of December episode of Monday Night Raw, so something could have changed by the time I post this, but we had the Usos versus the New Day on the next episode of Monday Night Raw, and to my surprise, the Usos actually won. Now, I was only surprised because I believe that this whole Usos being reunited is a temporary thing. I don't think it's going to be a long-term thing. So I was a little bit surprised because there wasn't really any tension teased, there wasn't any accidental on purpose, I hit you, you hit me, friendly fire type situation, which I kind of was expecting. But yeah, they just seemed to beat the New Day, and that was kind of it. And now it kind of seems like maybe they're the number one contenders for the tag titles, and I have a feeling that they may be facing AJ Styles and Dragon Lee for the World Tag Team titles, maybe on this upcoming Raw on the 22nd of December. I could be wrong, but we'll see. So I think that we could be seeing something happen in that match if that happens on this Raw, and I'm pretty sure it will be, because either they announced it or they teased it. I can't remember if they announced it or teased it. I think that AJ Styles and Dragon Lee kind of said that they liked the idea of going up against the Usos, but I don't think they actually announced it as a full-on match. But I have a feeling that match will probably happen on the 22nd of December. So obviously the whole storyline with Jay, you could date it all the way back to the start of the bloodline, like so multiple years where Roman was manipulating him to get him as the right-hand man and that kind of stuff. And I feel like they're still kind of playing off that a little bit, especially having Roman in his ear and Jimmy in his ear and that kind of thing in recent months. But this part of Jay's character, I feel like, probably began when he won the Royal Rumble and then went on to beat Gunther at WrestleMania for the World Championship. And I say that because his World Championship run was pretty short, but I feel like the story they were telling with it at the time, I wasn't happy with it at the time because I am a big Jey Uso fan, by the way. But I feel like the story they were telling at the time was that Jay had a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He wanted to prove himself, so he was overworking himself, burning himself out as the champion, and then that's ultimately what cost him the title in the end, because he was doing a lot at that time. I think he was defending the title maybe even every week or something. if I remember correctly, or at least he was doing a lot. I remember that. So he obviously had the taped up ribs for a number of weeks. So yeah, Jay ended up losing the title, and then he kind of went on this downward spiral where he got into a bit of a weird headspace, started doubting himself and that kind of thing. And then this is where we reinserted Roman into the situation. So this is where Roman started getting in his ear, Jimmy started getting in his ear. Everyone was trying to give him advice, and he didn't really know what way to go, what was right, what was wrong, and there was a bit of tension that was beginning to build between, basically in the bloodline, which, yeah, they are the bloodline, the OGs. So the tension was building between Roman and Jimmy and Roman, and maybe a bit of Jay and Jimmy. I don't remember there being much tension between Roman and Jay, but obviously when Roman had his match against Bronson Reed, I believe it was, at Crown Jewel, and Jimmy and Jay tried to help him, he didn't want to see them till Christmas.
I don't want to see you till Christmas.
Even though he saw them before Christmas because they were in War Games together, but let's ignore that. So yeah, it feels like this story it's going down a weird route. Like I keep trying to guess where they're going, but they keep throwing me off the scent, and I'm struggling to pinpoint where exactly I feel like they might be going. So I do feel like the Jey Uso story specifically is a tricky one to predict right now. But one thing I will say is I have seen reports. Now this could be a bit of a spoiler, so if you don't want to know this, then I would say click off the channel now. I'm going to give you the opportunity to do so, but I've seen reports that WWE have copyrighted the name The Tribal Heir. So that leads me to wonder if that is actually the case. Of course, it's just reports and it's online, so you have to take it with a pinch of salt because you don't know how true it is until it actually happens. But if WWE do actually have the rights to the name of The Tribal Heir, then it makes me think that Jay probably fits that the best, just because he was the one that Roman was manipulating, and it feels like the whole bloodline story was mostly a Jey Uso story, like the whole bloodline saga, because there was actually a big focus on him when we look back in it now, because he was the first one to join Roman. Roman was manipulating him pretty much the whole time, and then Jay obviously ended up deciding to go out on his own and become a single star, and then that's how we basically got to main event Jey Uso. So yeah, I do feel like Jey Uso could be the perfect fit for the Tribal Heir, but there is a possibility that if they do have this Tribal Heir name copyrighted, it could also be maybe Jimmy Uso who gets that position. Because if you think about it, at the start of the year, Jimmy Uso, I still remember that promo that he cut where he was very confident and he was basically saying this is Big Jim's year. Like Jey Uso's had his moment, Roman's had his moment, and it was kind of like he felt like this was his time. So we haven't really had much from Jimmy apart from that. So I believe that was maybe shortly after he came back, possibly back at Bad Blood, maybe. Like it might have been around that time, I'm not sure, but yeah, it feels like Jimmy hasn't really had much to do from there. He's mainly been like kind of like a side character in the Jey Uso story or the Roman Reigns story. Like he's not really had his own thing to go and chase. Like he hasn't gone after the United States Championship. He hasn't gone after the Intercontinental Championship or the World Championship, anything like that. So there is a world where Jimmy could perhaps be the guy to get the Tribal Heir. But this leads me back to the whole idea of the tag team of the Usos reuniting being a temporary thing. It just seems like to me, I have this feeling that we're going to have some kind of twist, and it feels like maybe Jay is probably going to mess up again and they're probably going to lose the tag team titles, because I think that the story of Jey Uso failing again, so he tried to do it obviously in the singles world and he was successful and then he wasn't, and it seemed like things were just falling apart from him, and it kind of felt like failure after failure after failure, I guess, from his perspective. So when he lost the championship after WrestleMania, and then he lost to CM Punk, and obviously that was like his second chance at the championship, he lost there as well, and then he also lost in the Last Time Is Now tournament. So for him, probably feels like failure after failure after failure, which leads me to think that possibly we could be seeing maybe a heel turn for Jey Uso, and that could come pretty soon, I think. I don't think it would happen necessarily in that tag team match if they fight for the World Tag Team Championships against AJ Styles and Dragon Lee on the 22nd of December. but I do think that in that match we could possibly see maybe Jey Uso accidentally spears Jimmy, or Jimmy accidentally super kicks Jey, or Jey super kicks Jimmy, for example, and then they lose the titles because of misunderstanding, miscommunication, friendly fire, accidental on purpose stuff. So yeah, I think that that's probably the more interesting route to go down for Jey, because if they just win the tag team titles, then I don't really know where you go with that. Like, I think it's more interesting if Jey kind of feels like, oh, I need to go back into the thing I know best. I know how to be a great tag team. Jimmy and Jey, one of the best tag teams that's ever been. So, of course, if things are starting to fall apart in the singles division, where's he going to go? Go back to the tag team division. If he fails there, then the question has to be, well, now what, Jey? What are you going to do now? Because you crashed out when the singles thing didn't work. So if it doesn't work in a tag team division, you got nothing to fall back on. So what's going to happen? So that's why I feel like maybe there could be a heel turn for Jey in the near future. It wouldn't be in that episode necessarily. It could possibly be after that match, maybe, but I think that's a bit too soon. And like we said before, Triple H and WWE, they love to tell their long-term stories, and they love to slow burn this stuff until it's dead in the water, dead in the ground, and no one wants to see it anymore. So yeah, I think maybe it could even be on the January 5th Netflix. They could possibly even do that. Maybe Jey turns heel there, but you could also have a Jimmy heel turn, perhaps. But then it's like you're getting close to maybe some Uso versus Uso situation again, which they've already done. And I know a lot of people have said that they don't want to see that again, but I would be interested. Like, especially if it's Jey Uso as the heel and then Jimmy as the babyface, because we had it the other way round. So you could maybe give it another shot and do something a little bit better with that. Perhaps I didn't think their WrestleMania match was bad necessarily. A lot of people thought their WrestleMania 40 match was dreadful, but I quite enjoyed it. I could tell the story that they were trying to tell. So yeah, potential for an Uso versus Uso situation, but then that leads me to another idea of maybe Jey just kind of stays in this tweener position where he's not a babyface, he's not a heel, but like sometimes he'll act like a heel, sometimes he'll act like a babyface, that kind of thing. Like maybe Jimmy will be trying to calm him down and stuff, and he'll be kind of pushing him away. Maybe this is when Roman gets back involved, and then that could be how you lead into a whole tribal wear situation. Now, I feel like the right route to go down would have been something to do with maybe The Rock and the final boss, and that would have been the perfect place to have Roman versus The Rock, and maybe Jey does something which earns himself a tribal wear situation. Or you could have even gone down the route of like Jey versus The Rock, I guess. I don't know what it would have been, but yeah. So I've just been editing this video and I realized I really sat on the fence with this one. So I actually want to do a little bit of a prediction here. So I mean, I was saying in the video that it is actually very difficult to determine where this whole Jey Uso and even the Usos story, and even maybe even Roman and the bloodline, I feel like it is very difficult to decipher where it's going to go. But I think if I had to put my money on it, I'd probably say that at the end of all of this, I do think Jey Uso is going to end up with the Ula Fala. I think that Roman Reigns is at some point going to give Jey Uso the Ula Fala, and I think that's how you get a tribal heir. I'm not sure exactly how they might do it, but I don't know if it would be like Jey helping Roman or not. I'm not sure, because I was even thinking while I was editing this video that I missed out the whole SummerSlam situation. So Jey Uso, Roman Reigns faced Bron Breakker, Bronson Reed, and Roman saved Jey Uso in that one, didn't he? So I'm pretty sure that Bron Breakker was about to spear Jey, and then Roman shoved Jey out of the way. I just feel like the end of this story is most likely going to be Jey Uso ends up with his own Ula Fala. It might be like a black one, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure he's going to become the tribal heir. So yeah, that's just my take on the situation, just my opinion. If you've got your own opinions on what could happen between the Usos, do you agree, do you disagree? Leave a comment down below, give me some reasons why. And yeah, if you enjoy this type of content and you want to see more, drop a comment down below on some ideas that maybe you want me to talk about. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care and peace.